Dear United Nations partners, colleagues, and participants from all over the world. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Meral Guzel, and I am the Partnerships Manager of Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator. It's my pleasure to open this special event today. Thank you very much for joining us to celebrate Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator, second year anniversary. Today's event is organized thanks to the generous funds of Mary Kay Global. I would like to go over a super quick housekeeping rules. We all know that we all became super Zoom gurus. This is a webinar where all attendees join in listening mode. We don't have a Q&A session per se, but we are happy to receive your questions. And if there's a chance, we will be happy to answer them before, during, or after the event. And of course, please feel very free to use the chat box for more interaction. And speakers and all registrants will receive the recording link after the event. So Women Entrepreneurship Accelerator, or WEA as acronym, is a multi-partnership initiative on women entrepreneurship established in September 2019 during the United Nations General Assembly by 5 UN agencies, namely International Labour Organization, International Trade Center, United Nations Development Programme, United Nations Global Compact and UN Women, and Mary Kay, to empower 5 million women entrepreneurs by 2030 by creating an enabling ecosystem for women entrepreneurs around the world. Today, with our most distinguished partners today, we are all together, and we will talk about the crucial importance of joining the forces for impact to advance women's entrepreneurship globally. We will also hear the voices of women's entrepreneurs, and we will welcome our new partners. WEA is a great example of the transformational power of a multi-stakeholder partnership to untap the potential of women entrepreneurs. We aim to build together an ecosystem for women's economic empowerment that fosters growth, sustainability, and resilience for women entrepreneurs. When I say we, I meant the WEA global team. Here, I would like to recognize all my wonderful colleagues with whom I have the honor to work together and collaborate on the results of our initiatives. And I would like to say to you all, thank you, a big thank you for your partnership. Oh.
You're muted.
Meral, you're on mute. This happens often during our panels. Meral, can you unmute, please? It looks as though Meral is having a little bit of a technical difficulty, so I am going to launch in. My name is Amanda Ellis. I'm lead for global partnerships at the exciting new ASU Julianne Wrigley Global Futures Laboratory, previously served as ambassador to the United Nations for New Zealand, and could not be more excited to be with this incredible lineup of speakers today, all embodying SDG 17, Partnerships for the Goals. So welcome to our distinguished UN agency leads. Welcome to private sector partner, Mary Kay, women entrepreneurs, and participants from all around the globe who are joining us today. Please feel free to use the chat. We're already seeing Beanie, hi from London, and tell us where you're tuning in from. I'm honored today to serve as moderator for such a unique, inclusive event to really showcase collaboration and joint commitment to both accelerate and to celebrate women's entrepreneurship, such an incredible driving force for good. Now, we all know the sobering statistics. The COVID-19 pandemic and the climate crisis are hitting women hardest, particularly with loss of livelihoods. And we know that already it's not a level playing field for women entrepreneurs. In not a single country in 2021 has full gender equality yet been achieved. And indeed, in only 10 is it even legislated. So we have much work to do, and that is why this particular partnership is so essential. As we enter the decade of action for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, where we are all committed to creating the future we want by 2030, the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator is needed more than ever. And I just love the three aims: to inspire, to educate, and to empower. And it's very important to note that research demonstrates women entrepreneurs are more likely to privilege sustainability and to run enterprises that are not only for profit, but also for purpose. So both for economic advancement and for social good. Enabling ecosystem really is a great investment and helps us to meet the Sustainable Development Goals. So how are we going to move through this 90-minute session today? 5 parts. First of all, we're going to hear from the founding private sector partner, Mary Kay Global. Next, you'll hear the voices of women entrepreneurs themselves from every UN region around the globe. Third, we'll hear from the founding UN agency partners, and then you're going to meet new partners who are committing to the Accelerator today. And finally, we have closing remarks from UN Women's newest edition. So it's my very great pleasure and honor now to introduce Mary Kay Global Chief Operating Officer, Deb Gibbins. Deb leads the global supply chain and the research and development organizations at Mary Kay Global, which is a household name. It's a multi-billion-dollar beauty company with literally millions of independent sales force members around the world in over 40 markets. So Deb also oversees finance, public affairs, and strategic planning for Mary Kay Global. And prior to joining, she held senior roles at PepsiCo Frito-Lay North America and at Arthur Andersen. Deb is absolutely passionate about continuing Mary Kay's 58-year legacy to bring entrepreneurship to millions of women globally. And today she joins us as the private sector founder and catalyst for the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator. Deb, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate your kind words and introduction. Distinguished United Nations partners, participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to open this event on the critical importance of joining forces to drive change for women entrepreneurs. Our founder, Mary Kay Ash, was a visionary. In the 1960s, our company she founded was by a woman for women, with a unique commitment to gender equality through entrepreneurship. At Mary Kay, we want to keep advancing her dream. So 2 years ago, I had the privilege to announce the inception of the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator. during the United Nations General Assembly, and together with the International Labor Organization, the International Trade Center, the UN Global Compact, UN Development Program, and UN Women. We committed to an unconventional partnership, 5 UN agencies and 1 private company, a powerful collaboration to magnify the impact of our collective resources. We established this accelerator and committed to creating an enabling ecosystem for women entrepreneurs all around the world. Today, with the pandemic striking right at the decade of action, as Amanda mentioned, with women being hit the hardest, our purpose has become our manifesto. More than ever, we aspire to join forces together to drive change. That means joining forces to scale up transformational initiatives. We know it's only through innovative collaborations between all the stakeholders invested in women's entrepreneurship that we can have a transformative impact that we are all seeking. We today are calling on public and private sectors, along with civil society actors, to join us. That means joining forces to catalyze our entrepreneurship commitments. As you know, the Generation Equality Forum, convened by UN Women, launched the Global Acceleration Plan designed around 6 action coalitions. In June, the Accelerator joined the action coalitions and is now officially recognized as a global commitment maker. In Paris, the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator collectively pledged to empower 5 million women by 2030. Because entrepreneurship intersects with economic justice, the gender-digital divide, gender-based violence, and climate action, our goal is to become a catalyst for the commitments made in support of the entrepreneurship across the action coalitions. So today, I want to make a call to all the commitment makers who want to invest in women's entrepreneurship to join forces with WIA. Commit to join us. Let's catalyze entrepreneurship commitments for a multiplied impact. With the right programs and strategic focus on gaps in innovation, together, we're going to demonstrate that women's entrepreneurship is one of the key drivers to accelerate the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of our goals. With Amanda, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Deb. And what an inspiring call to action. The critical importance of joining forces to drive change for women entrepreneurs. And this is a wonderful segue now into our next section, which is actually the voices of women entrepreneurs from 13 countries, every UN region. We're going to hear from Australia, Canada, Ecuador, Egypt, India, Jordan, Kenya, Kyrgyzstan, Macedonia, New Zealand, Russia, Tanzania, and Turkey. Meral, over to you. So while we're getting the video queued to play, I just wanted to shout out to some of our participants joining us from Pakistan, Finland, Turkey, Argentina, Mexico, Scotland. So have a look in the chat. Everybody is joining us from every corner of the globe. And the video is ready to go. Women entrepreneurs are job creators and innovators, contributing positively to the economic well-being of their families, their communities, and their countries. And yet, they face far greater barriers than their male counterparts, both legal and cultural.
People regularly assume that my manufacturing company must be a family business rather than my own enterprise, or that I must have come from money, which certainly isn't the case. All around me, I see the additional burden of care falling predominantly to women, even in my own home.
Being a woman and being a social entrepreneur, having a family, these 3 things will really make the life of a woman complicated.
Being an entrepreneur has been an important challenge for me, especially as a woman, and more being a mom. The working environment is not prepared to receive a woman with kids.
Our economy is in turmoil. We do know that entrepreneurship is a key driver to economic growth. But yet we still keep women at bay.
It takes a village to raise a child. This saying is still valid today when women combine their working and family roles. Women entrepreneurs have an additional child, their business, that also needs a lot of attention, time, and investment to succeed.
Main obstacles for women entrepreneurs in Jordan, mainly limited access to creative different financing solutions according to the type and the stage of the business, and also the risk women are willing to take. Things are improving in Jordan, however, there is still a gap in this regard.
In our project, we work with natural beauty, natural products for beauty and for health. And we have built a very big community of women that sells the products, but frequently, very frequently, I find out that these women are being under a lot of violence and a lot of problems that are produced because of machismo, and they have a lot of pressure of their husbands of not working, or they have a lot of pressure because they have children and they are single mothers and they don't have support from the father of the children.
The legal system in my country provides equal opportunity for women. However, customs and tradition make it difficult for women to own land and assets. This restricts their access to financial services.
In my case, when I started entrepreneurial, I was only 23, and that was a challenge. People did not listen to my voice, so I take it as a call, and this is my mandate now, to support young women entrepreneurs, to make their voices heard on the table, to make them enabled in order to start their businesses and ventures.
In 2021, not a single country has yet achieved full gender equality. And in fact, only 10 have even legislated for it.
Women are still excluded from some of the most important networks that could help drive their business forward, and are far more likely to be overlooked when it comes to investment. It's a multifaceted challenge that no individual organisation can solve alone.
When you are having a support system, not only from the family, but from the government and the private and the public sector, it will really make a very good impact and a positive change to the society and to the people around you.
It is a fact that supporting women entrepreneurs is one of the most effective tools to revive growth, create jobs, lead a movement of women using business as a force for good, and generate transformational economic impact.
In my own ventures, I've experienced the strengths that partnerships can bring. Collaborating with NGOs, governments, innovation networks, and accelerator programs has enabled me to scale my tech platform to support micro, small, and medium enterprises in emerging economies.
I own a theater and cultural and arts center, and the challenge that I have faced during the pandemic was, of course, the fact that our theater was obliged to be closed for an unknown period of time. At that moment, I said, okay, we need to do something. We need to do something different in order to cope with this unexpected situation. And we started to work on a digital theater platform. This was an immediate solution to an immediate problem, and we have been quite successful to prepare in a short time a new digital theater platform, which enabled us to bring some income to our actors and also to have an opportunity of being in touch with cultural environment for the people who have been stuck in their homes. But of course, I have faced some challenges during all these efforts, as there was no background for women entrepreneurs to support them, and there was no collaboration. As this was a new idea, we needed a budget, we needed some regulations, and especially we needed some supportive organizations.
Today, we must collectively advance economic opportunities for women and create ecosystem for women entrepreneurs to enable them to lead more resilient and independent lives. We can't achieve sustainable development goals without having women entrepreneurs on board.
We have the capacity, we have the knowledge, we have the understanding today that we need to have a truly inclusive economy. We can make that happen. You can make it happen. Just be bold, get together, and do the change that is so needed.
What a wonderful overview of the legal and cultural barriers, the multifaceted challenges, but also how uplifting in seeing women's entrepreneurship as a force for good. And as one of the video participants put it, transformational impact. And I love that final, be bold, get together, and be the change we want to see that is so needed. This is a wonderful transition to our next section, where we will welcome the founding partners. And as is UN tradition, we will introduce in alphabetical order the International Labour Organization, the International Trade Center, the UN Global Compact, and UN Women. And unfortunately, UNDP could not be with us today. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists to tell us a little bit about their insights into the economic impact of women's entrepreneurship and the initiatives that can help counter the impact of COVID-19 on women's businesses. So first up, I'm delighted to welcome the International Labour Organization, Vinicius Pinheiro, the Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean, who is a Brazilian national and also serves as Deputy Director General. Welcome. Until the date of Vinicius' appointment in 2020, he held the position of Special Representative of the ILO to the United Nations and Director of the ILO Office for the United Nations in New York. An economist by training, he has worked at the OECD and with the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank. Vinicius, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And I'd like to also express our appreciation to Mary Kay Foundation, to the 5 agencies that are leading this initiative. We're very pleased to be together with this team to inspire, educate, and empower. So let me say, Amanda, first that COVID-19 has affected disproportionately women, and that happened for many reasons. So basically, we saw 54 million jobs for women simply disappear from the labor market. And that was a tragedy. I've never seen this before. And that set us back almost 10 years in terms of gender equality, because the number of jobs that we lost for men, or let's say the decrease in the participation rates was relatively lower. And contrary to other crises, now that people lose their jobs and they keep looking for it, so they are part of the unemployment, let's say, statistics. In this case, they just left the labor market. So this was quite unique of this crisis. And mostly in Latin America, we lost like 10 percentage points in terms of participation rates, and people just disappear from the labor market. So this is quite worrying. Most of them were women. A lot of them were young women, and this is something that we need to deal with. So generally, and why this happened? First, a lot of the sectors that were impacted by the crisis were sectors where women are overrepresented, in particular services, in tourism and other sectors. So there was a massive job destruction in the service sector because of the pandemic. Also, they were also disproportionately represented in the informal economy. So that means also as well a lot of jobs that disappeared. And the problem is, as we are gradually coming out of the pandemic, and we see some already good numbers in terms of employment and also in terms of economic growth. These numbers are actually more positive for men. So some of the sectors that are actually being reactivated are male, let's say, dominated sectors, including commodity sector. A lot in the region, for example, Latin America, a lot has been pushed for commodities, big like infrastructure investment, a digital economy, unfortunately, mostly men, and also even the green economy. When you say let's transition towards a green economy, we actually, unfortunately, most of the jobs that are created, they're still very much men. So the recovery is also creating more inequalities. So if you say, and if you look at the numbers in Latin America, out of the jobs created from 2020 to now, 70% were informal. So that means they're not learning the lessons of the crisis. So we're becoming more informal, more unequal, and also inducing more problems in terms of gender equality. Instead of pushing the accelerator to promote more gender equality because we lost 10 years, we are kind of not doing a good job. So it's very important to catalyze, efforts to address this issue. And I say that not in a sense of victimization or in a sense of creating rivalry between sex, but it's in a sense of we're losing talents, we're losing capabilities now, in the sense that the potential growth that is being lost because of that. That's the main optic that I think we should look at. And we know that if we had women in the labor market as we had before, according to the statistics, we could have created around $5 trillion increase in the GDP. So we're really losing opportunities. We're losing also creativity. And I think that's why it's so important, this type of alliances. Over, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Vinicius, and such critical points. Of course, women entrepreneurs are job creators, so they're needed in even more at this time of such extreme job loss around the world. Now I am delighted to turn to Pamela Coke-Hamilton, who is the Executive Director of the International Trade Center and hails from one of my favorite islands, Jamaica. Pamela is a Caribbean lawyer, and she has a breadth of experience and expertise in trade-related capacity building and sustainable development. She previously served for the Jamaican government and for the Caribbean Forum in trade negotiations, and has worked with a range of multilateral organizations, including the Organization of American States and the Inter-American Development Bank. She has a very deep understanding of the challenges faced particularly by vulnerable economies, such as small island developing states and least developed countries. Pamela also established the Women Empowered Through Export platform to address the disadvantages that women-owned firms often experience in accessing markets. Welcome, Pamela, and the floor is yours to please tell us about the economic impact of women's entrepreneurship and some of the ways we can try to mitigate the negative impacts of COVID-19.
Thanks so much, Amanda. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's evening on my side. Let me begin by thanking the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator partners and Mary Kay for the ongoing collaboration as we mark the second anniversary of this partnership. And it's also an enormous pleasure to be here today with like-minded professionals who understand the intrinsic challenges that women entrepreneurs face and who are profoundly committed to help them overcome these challenges. So to your question, Amanda, women play a critical role in driving economic development. When it comes to trade, we see that women-led businesses tend to grow their businesses faster and employ more people, which can contribute to economic growth, to innovation, to productivity, to poverty reduction, and overall development. As the woman in the little video said, unfortunately, they were disproportionately affected during the pandemic. And so in March 2020, we began working on a strong contingency plan to support those who had been severely impacted by the crisis triggered by the pandemic. We partnered with leading organizations from the private sector to offer these women a practical guide to kind of chart their path through recovery. So together with UPS, Maersk, Visa, and various capital providers, We provided expert guidance and analysis on COVID's impact on trade. We explained how SMEs can account for COVID in financial planning, how to implement crisis management approaches, and how to address changes in consumer behavior. Also, as part of our efforts, we gathered a cohort of partners from the public and private sectors to offer a guide called Women Entrepreneurs, an Action Plan to Build Back Better. And this assesses the role of women as part of the recovery process, but also presents actionable recommendations for different stakeholder groups to support women's entrepreneurship in the post-COVID-19 era. These recommendations included a call, one, to cover corporations, to strengthen efforts to diversify their supply chains, to improve financing, flexibility, and access for women entrepreneurs, and finally, to offer targeted training and advice for women. In the area of policymakers, we called on them to develop mechanisms to help women-led enterprises obtain finance, to increase women's participation in public procurement opportunities, and to promote solutions for the continuity of business. And at the international community level, we called on the international community to strengthen global cooperation and support digital literacy and use of digital technologies to maintain competitiveness in the face of digital transformation. And based on the analysis from 15 international experts, it's predicted that if no action is taken, many businesswomen will experience setbacks in their businesses, impacting the strides that we've made in gender equality. So despite the untold human suffering and economic devastation, I'm optimistic that the crisis can pave the way for more equitable trade. It's a critical time to invest in the private sector and to provide growth capital to women-led businesses. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Pamela. And it sounds as though we all need to get a copy of your Women Entrepreneurs Action Plan to Build Back Better, and love the idea of having targeted training and advice and also reaching out to policymakers. So a very holistic solution. And while you were speaking, we had a wonderful comment actually in the chat that pointed out how important this kind of holistic approach that you're outlining is. And I love the way that she linked SDG 5 on gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls to SDG 13 on climate, which is so important. And of course, we're hearing a lot from the Secretary General now about Code Red for Humanity and SDG 3 for well-being. So thank you for those wonderful remarks. And I'm thrilled now to turn to Sanda Ojiambo, the Executive Director of the United Nations Global Compact. Sanda hails from Kenya, and I have been honored to participate in a number of global webinars with her, and I'm a big fan. So Sanda joined right in the middle of the pandemic. So she was able to immediately start work on an ambitious new global strategy for the United Nations Global Compact with an aim to accelerate and to scale the global collective impact of businesses. And really the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact encompassing human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption are really at the core of the way in which businesses can create a race to the top and enable positive change. So during Sanda's tenure, she has promoted stronger business engagement with UN partners to deliver and finance the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Previously, she served as Head of Sustainable Business and Social Impact at Safaricom PLC in Kenya. And many of you will know Safaricom is, I think, the largest telecoms company in Kenya, but is also famous worldwide for M-Pesa and mobile money, so very innovative. Sanda has also held roles for CARE International and the United Nations Development Programme. So just to finish up, for those of you who know about the Global Compact, you may not be aware that there are now 13,000 companies who are members and over 3,000 non-business signatories. So we encourage all of you business owners to join the Global Compact. And if you're a non-business owner, you can still be a signatory. So over 160 countries are represented, making the UN Global Compact the world's largest corporate sustainability initiative. uniting business for a better world. Sanda Ojiambo, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Amanda. First, thank you so much for those kind words and the generous welcome, and even delivering a call to action to sign up for businesses on our behalf. And to the esteemed panelists, just always great to be with you here. We're all doing fantastic work for this important agenda. So, Amanda, to your question about the economic impact of women entrepreneurship and what to do, I think the economic impact, or indeed the business case for gender equality or supporting women in entrepreneurship has long been clear. I think, women's participation and leadership in business has proven essential to driving forward both economic and financial, performance. Sometimes it almost seems even a little bit frustrating that you have to put forward a business case or demonstrate the economic impact because, it's been often said in many anecdotal speeches, why would you do anything with only half of the team? You cannot, deliver at 100% when you don't have 100% of what you need at the table. But be that as it may, I mean, a lot of statistics and a lot of figures really do point to the fact that, female representation and gender equality does provide better financial returns and better opportunities for society as a whole. In fact, looking at some specific studies, they've shown that companies with high female representation have annual returns that are 2.8% higher than less inclusive businesses. Statistics also say that an estimated $28 trillion could be added to global GDP by 2025 if there were proper and solid and sustainable investments in gender equality. But yet the truth is, and COVID notwithstanding, women continue to face considerable structural and systemic barriers to economic inclusion. Statistics such as a high gender pay gap at 16% globally, rising as high as 34% in some low and middle income countries are truly startling. And so, women remain more vulnerable to economic downturn, less likely to take financial risks, less likely to innovate, less likely to become entrepreneurs. But yet we do know that a successful woman entrepreneur delivers benefit not only to herself, but to family and to community as a whole. Statistics also say that worldwide, just about 6.2% of women established their own businesses in the recent past, as opposed to 9.5% of men. So the startup challenges still exist. And these include, for example, cultural biases, regulatory biases, as well as lack of access to capital, market information, networks, and technology. And these persist in many shapes and forms in different countries around the world. They're even greater in low and middle income countries where women entrepreneurs often have less access than men to productive resources, services, and opportunities. So, as I said, COVID notwithstanding, there are significant challenges, and the gender pay gap and others really have exacerbated or worsened women's economic empowerment and entrepreneurship opportunities. So a little bit about what we've been doing and in relation to COVID. Last year, the Global Compact launched what we call the Target Gender Equality COVID-19 quiz, just a simple sense check to really understand and draw attention to what businesses need to be doing and the actions that businesses need to take to ensure a gender sensitive and gender inclusive COVID response, a response to COVID-19. And we did this to get a sense of where people's thoughts and plans lay, and then to further equip our businesses and our local networks to be able to provide a more inclusive response. And according to the data from this, only about 8 of 10 companies had women actively involved in informing their COVID response. 2 out of 10 missing, but 2 out of 10 being significant. I think what was important is also the levels of action that were being taken and the levels of participation. Where were women really participating? Was it at the final decision-making points? Was it simply in providing information and advisory? Be that as it may, I think around the world, this is a really important time for women to be included in more direct leadership and decision-making roles as we aim to build back better post-pandemic. One of the things that we're doing is the Target Gender Equality Program, working with companies to set and meet ambitious targets for women's representation at leadership and management and participation in decision-making where it counts. And where does it count? It often counts where the rubber meets the road in financial and investment decisions, because that is what really then turns action and ambition into firm action. We run our Target Gender Equality Program in collaboration with over 40 Global Compact local networks in every region, so in 40 countries. And I'm really hopeful that we can challenge companies in these 40 countries to continue to set ambitious targets for women's representation and women's participation at all levels of business, including around procurement, spending, and important financial decision-making for women-owned and women-led businesses. I think it's just the opportune moment to really continue the strong push for gender inclusivity in business and certainly for more female entrepreneurship. It's very important to be able to unlock some of the structural and systemic barriers that I talked about if we want to continue to avoid these massive setbacks on gender equality and sustainable development. So thank you so much. Over back to you, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Sandra. And I love that overview of structural and systemic barriers. And it just reminds me that Women, Business and the Law at the World Bank have documented over 1,600 laws that still prevent women from being economically active on the same basis as their male counterparts. So we're really thrilled to have the range of initiatives that you're leading at the UN Global Compact. And I'm personally very involved in target gender equality and can attest it's fantastic. So hoping that all of our audience will become involved too. Thank you so much, Sandra, and please stay with us for our lightning round. I am delighted now to introduce Anita Bhatia, who serves as Assistant Secretary General and UN Women Deputy Executive Director for Resource Management, UN System Coordination, Sustainability, and Partnerships. Anita and I previously worked together at the World Bank, where she had a very distinguished career, both at headquarters and in the field. Anita has led diverse teams, including as Global Head of Knowledge Management, Head of Business Process Improvement, and Head of Change Management. Anita has always been a huge proponent of innovative and collaborative partnerships and a fantastic champion of women's equality and of women entrepreneurs. Anita, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Amanda, and it's great to be with all of you today. I want to start by just congratulating everyone engaged in this initiative for getting to this point and for having the conversations that we're having today. And I would be remiss if I did not have a special shout out for Mary Kay and for Deborah, because the support from Mary Kay has been absolutely crucial to maintaining the momentum that we have achieved thus far and will be crucial for the way forward. I'd also like to give a shout out to all of the fellow participants on this panel, because they are collaborators and partners in moving this really important agenda on women's entrepreneurship forward. I'd like to just pick up on some of the points that have been made by previous speakers as to the importance of women's entrepreneurship, particularly as we seek to build forward differently. I've stopped saying building back better because I really worry about building back the same old ossified structures that we had before. And I do think that this crisis is an opportunity to do things differently, which is why I have taken to saying building forward differently versus building back better, because we don't really want to go back. And I think we heard very eloquently from those who came before me about the impact of the pandemic on women and on women-owned businesses. So I won't really dwell too much on the impacts, but let me just say a word first about why business itself is so important and entrepreneurship itself is so important. And that is related to the issue of job creation. And we know today that in every single part of the world, with the exception of the Arab states region, the private sector is the single biggest contributor to GDP. It is jobs do not come from government. Jobs come from business, whether they are informal businesses or formal businesses. The largest creators of jobs in the world are business, not government. And knowing that makes it really important for government and partnerships to be built to support the ecosystem of entrepreneurship. And what can be done specifically to support women-owned businesses is a little different from what needs to be done to support business in general. Business in general and women-owned businesses in particular need three things: access to capital, access to technical assistance and capacity building for the skills that are needed to run a business, and thirdly, access to markets. And it is here where public and private sector can really come together to create the enabling environment for allowing women-owned businesses to thrive. But the pandemic has actually shown that there are two additional things that governments and business must pay attention to if we really want to kickstart businesses again after the pandemic. The first is digital access, because the world is divided now into those who have digital access and those who don't. And what we have learned through the pandemic is that if you don't have access to digital infrastructure, both hard and soft infrastructure, you cannot really compete in the post-pandemic economy. And so it is absolutely vital that as we think about what tools, instruments, and capacities we need to give women entrepreneurs to allow them to flourish, we think about digital infrastructure. The second issue is addressing the care burden that women have, because women entrepreneurs will not be able to start, sustain, and maintain businesses if they already have another job. And we have seen that the unpaid care burden of work, which for women before the pandemic was 3 times the burden that men had, has actually increased exponentially during the pandemic. So as we think about public policy and private sector measures to support women's entrepreneurship, we must address both the digital infrastructure issue, but also the issue of the care burden. I'd like to urge everybody who's listening into this panel today to look at UN Women's policy briefs on the care economy, to look at the plan for a feminist recovery that UN Women just put out last week, but also to look at the UN Women, UNDP Global Policy Tracker, because that Global Policy Tracker shows very clearly in which parts of the world government fiscal stimulus packages are getting to women and where they are not. And it won't surprise anybody who's listening in today to know that very few of the stimulus packages have actually reached women, which is where the role of the private sector becomes really important, because government by itself will never be able to solve for all of these issues. So it's really important that the ecosystem for business include business itself, and that businesses role model the kinds of policies, whether it is parental leave, family leave, employment insurance, flexible working hours, or other initiatives that allow women to have the environment that they need to consider becoming entrepreneurs and to build and maintain entrepreneurship outside of everything else that they may be considering doing in terms of dealing with the impact of the pandemic. I'll stop there, Amanda, and hand back to you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Anita. And I think from today on, I'm going to talk about building forward better and differently. So thank you very much for that reframe. Takeaway for our audience to look at the policy briefs from UN Women, and love the fact that you're really looking into this feminist recovery. I'm based here in Hawaii, and this was the first place where the state actually designed a feminist recovery plan, and Sanda Ojiambo wrote a very articulate and wonderful article about that too. So I recommend that to everybody. We're now going to have a second round to really drill down into the impact of collaboration in building the enabling ecosystem for entrepreneurs that the partners are also actively engaged in. So I'm going to ask each of you in the same order to share what your organization is doing, both individually and collectively, to promote women's entrepreneurship. We will start with the ILO and Vinicius.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you to our interventions. Definitely, no one can do it alone. The challenge is so immense that we need to get together. And the word that I think it's one of the most important words that was mentioned before is holistic, only the holistic approach that combines, of course, recovery efforts in social protection schemes to provide, for example, support at all levels to women to live, to first come back to the labor market and then be part of the solution. Because when you create, when we empower a woman entrepreneurship, of course, she will also hire a number of people, and then you contribute to reduce unemployment and increase employment. So that's very important in all senses. And that means, for example, in our case, as part of this alliance, we are working in particularly Mexico, in Brazil. We are working in designing what we call the Woman Empowerment Economic Assessment that looks at exactly what are the issues that are on the table, mapping where they are, and providing the tools for inclusion, because this is a very specific issue. Of course, we have the broad categories, and we need to provide access to capital, to digital infrastructure, to knowledge, but we need to do it in a very targeted basis according to the sector, according to the country, because the situation is very, very different. So in Brazil and Mexico, we are doing exactly this. Now we're providing support to female entrepreneurship, in particular by improving knowledge, raising awareness, and supporting institutional business development organizations to do that. I would like to also mention EPIC. EPIC is a big alliance that we have with women to promote equal pay, because it's not only to bring back women to the labor market and to enhance entrepreneurship, but to do it in equal foot with men. So when we want to create a second category now, we need to actually get women to strive and to break the ceilings, all the ceilings, not only the glass ceiling, but the ceilings that are still impeding them to get back to the labor market and to boost entrepreneurship. And let me just finalize by also mentioning one experience that I had with another project that we have with one woman, which is the win-win, Ganar, which has a number of regional diversifications. When we are, of course, looking at the Latin America branch here. When I came to office in March, we were of course, already confronting a pandemic. And of course, we were listening about a lot of sad stories, and there was a lot of negativism there. Then I told my colleagues, look, let's think about how we can use win-win actually to create positivity and to see how we can come out of this together. And that was part of the redesign of the win-win. And one of the outcomes was precisely the creation of this network of women entrepreneurs from Latin America and Europe. Initially, it was a kind of, okay, let's share good practices, a kind of support group, because in times like this, you're looking at leadership, you're looking at solidarity, you're looking at networking, sharing your experience to those who are living, going through the same experience. So it helped a lot and gave a lot of insights into how to survive in your business in pandemic times. But then as we are growing and we have more than 1,800 participants now, they start do what they do best, which is business, actually. We start connecting supply chains in Europe and Latin America to start business, so to generate new business opportunities. So I think that's part of the access to markets that was mentioned before. So I would like to flag that as well, because it's so important. By networking and by getting together, you not only get inspiration, not only get empowerment education, but also you get what you need most, which is business opportunities. So thank you so much, Amanda. Over to you.
Wonderful points. And it's so uplifting to hear all the exciting activity that's going on. We move now to the International Trade Center. Pamela, if you could tell us what the ITC is doing to promote women's entrepreneurship.
Thanks, Amanda. I mean, this is also about, collaboration, cooperation, and all of us here must cooperate to make gender equality and women's empowerment a priority in the COVID-19 recovery efforts. Collaborating with like-minded people and results-oriented partners like you enables us to build scale and continuity, which is otherwise unattainable on its own. So as part of WEA, we are developing an online entrepreneurship curriculum in 6 different languages that will teach the skills needed to design and set up businesses that have the potential to be economically and sustainably viable. Through these interactive modules, women from all over the world will learn how to prepare a business model canvas, design a pitch, identify sources of funding, and find the right partners. And these interactive learning pieces are going to be launched later this year and will be complemented by online workshops in 4 target countries at the beginning: Brazil, Colombia, India, and Mexico. And then through the ITC She Trades initiative, our goal of connecting 3 million women to market has so far resulted in $200 million in trade opportunities generated for women. So we've been working on supplier development programs with partners for the past decade, but are also giving special emphasis on boosting access to public procurement, as well as incorporating a gender perspective on trade agreements by clearly outlining how women-led businesses can stand to benefit from regional trade agreements. And this is as demonstrated in our work on the African Continental Free Trade Area. And the specific programs we have, such as She Trades Invest, allow us to focus on critical needs, such as the challenges women entrepreneurs face in accessing finance. And this pillar of the initiative, we offer women guidance on how to access financial resources and connect them with potential financiers for putting their ideas and projects into material form. So leveraging partnerships is a critical avenue through which ITC achieves scale and sustainability. And we believe that working together, we can ramp up our collective goal of supporting women entrepreneurs. If we're to achieve gender equality as a powerful engine for the global economy and sustainable growth, I think it's going to be critical to continue and deepen. So I look forward to broadening our collaboration with WEA partners and to rise to this challenge. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Love scale and sustainability. A lot going on there. Thank you for those wonderful contributions. Anita, tell us all about UN Women.
Thank you so much, Amanda. For UN Women, it's really about building the ecosystem for entrepreneurship. And of course, there are specific initiatives, but let me talk about a couple of things in the ecosystem. So the first thing is support that UN Women provides for gender responsive procurement, because we know that lots of women-owned businesses suffer from discrimination when it comes to their ability to actually access procurement opportunities. And this is true of both developed as well as developing economies. And so we have programs that help women understand how to access and capitalize on these opportunities for growing their businesses. So that's really important. The second, of course, is the emphasis on the care economy that we have been actually ahead of our times in flagging, because we first flagged this in one of our flagship annual reports several years ago, but then it really came to the fore during the pandemic. So the work that we are doing as part of Generation Equality on the Global Alliance for Care is also addressing some of what Sandra was calling structural and systemic barriers to women's entrepreneurship. So these are some of the initiatives that we have. And then, of course, this initiative, which we do in partnership with both Mary Kay, but also the other UN agencies who are on this panel, but also some who are not represented here, is vital to pushing the envelope when it comes to women's entrepreneurship. Thanks, Amanda, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Anita. Sandra, looking forward to hearing more from you.
Sorry, I see I was muted. Thanks. And on this one, I think I'm just going to refer to 2 fantastic partners we have on the screen. And first, I'll talk about a recent meeting that I had with Pamela right here from the ITC. And I think, partnership is really the engine, the link that allows you to just go further, scale further, go further and deliver on impact. There was a question in the chat about whether the UN Global Compact accepts micro enterprises. And at the moment, digitally, we're trying to do a little bit of digital transformation and re-engineering to enable us to do that. But at this point in time, where it's in a strategy process. But I had a great meeting with Pamela last week, and we talked about ways in which our cohort of businesses and their cohort of businesses could collaborate on issues that deal with business, trade, growing entrepreneurship. And I think I really look forward to developing a partnership with the ITC where we can work in support of more women-led, women-owned businesses as a whole. So, that's something to strategically look forward to that will allow us to access more micro, small, and medium enterprises and allow the International Trade Center access some of the business networks that we have. So, partnership, even on a very practical level, as recent as just a few days ago, for me is so real and so relevant to the kind of work that we do. Looking a bit further back, and I'll look at our partnership with Anita and certainly UN Women. For the last 10 years, the Global Compact has been so pleased to partner with the UN Women on the Women's Empowerment Principles, or the WEPs. For us, they have really been able to shape the work that we do around women's empowerment and really practical principles that businesses can put in place to, analyze some of the strategic gaps that they have, look at the policy gaps and be able to take firm action for what they need to do. So to date, we kicked off with 39 signatories, I think in 2010. To date, we have more than 5,500 businesses that have signed up to the WEPs, and 2,700 of them are actually SMEs who are using this framework to advance gender equality in their businesses. We do surveys of our businesses, year on year, and 82% of the companies participating in the work that we do say that gender equality is already embedded in their strategies. But we are very keen to see our partnerships move things like ambition and policy into firm action. And I think that's what's really important. I think we have seen shifts in corporate priorities over time. We have seen more companies set policies and make commitment, but what's really important is the actions that come forward. And I'm just so acutely aware that without partnerships, we're not able to either tap into the technical knowledge that another partner may have, or the scale or the reach going forward. So partnerships for me are absolutely critical for how we do our work. Back over to you, Amanda.
Wonderful, thank you. And love those very practical examples of seeing these powerful partnerships in action. We're going to finish with a lightning round where each of you will have 30 to 60 seconds to leave our audience with a takeaway. So I'm going to start in the same order. So Vinicius, if you would like to leave the audience just with one takeaway from the ILO perspective.
Yeah, so this is about investment. It's not about victimism, but it's about enhancing our capacity to grow together, to grow better. So it's about recovering the time that we lost with the pandemic and building a better society, more just and more productive. So that's why we need the most emphasis, the most support that we can get to women entrepreneurship. So in addition to increase labor participation, they will also employ more people now and helping us to get out of this crisis. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now to Pamela at the ITC.
Sure, thanks. Okay, let me think about one final word that I can say. At ITC, we really believe that there can be no sustainable development if the tangible and intangible barriers which hold back women are not addressed. We must enhance, we have to, their participation in international trade, help them scale their businesses so that they become catalysts for more inclusive and sustainable communities. I know that 2020 and 2021 have generated an unparalleled disruption for small businesses. So to all the incredible women entrepreneurs and women-led businesses here, I urge you to not lose hope. This is time for you to build forward better, as Anita said, and create the new normal you want to see in business and trade. Remember, there's no such thing as failure if you refuse to get bogged down. It is the courage to continue that counts, and together we're stronger. So I'm confident that we will rise from this with a new perspective and a more resilient and inclusive global economy with women at the forefront. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you. Together we're stronger. Yes. So now, Sandra from the UN Global Compact, call to action.
So I just want to reflect on a recent report released by the UN Secretary General a couple of weeks ago. We call it our common agenda, really for a refreshed social contract that brings private sector, the UN, government, and all stakeholders around the table. And some stock words were used for either a breakthrough or breakdown point, given all of the crises that are ongoing. And amidst all of that, I just wanted to reflect on what the role of private sector is and what really then the role of business is. This is an opportune moment, I think, for businesses not only to look at respecting and supporting women's rights very broadly, including women's economic rights, and not just internally. Some responses would be around, yes, let's create a better workplace, an employee workplace, an employee mindset. I think that is fantastic. But I think where we really get some of the quantum leap and the additional value is also looking at how we can empower women across value chains and across supply chains and as entrepreneurs so that they're able to make those independent business choices should they wish to. I think that's why we unleash a lot of business potential, commercial potential, and economic potential. So I'll stop there. Thank you, Amanda.
Wonderful, thank you. And Anita, to you, and then please stay online. We're getting a request for a photograph of everybody. So if everyone can please keep cameras on, there's going to be some photographing going on.
So
Anita.
I think that thank you very much, Amanda. And lots has been said, and I agree with everything that previous speakers have said. I think where I will end would be with two things. And I would say, one, I would say digital again, because I do not think that without paying attention to the digital economy and the impact of the digital economy, that we can actually move the needle for women's entrepreneurship. And then the second point is partnership, because I think as this panel illustrates, this is not something that can be done by women alone. It cannot be done by business alone. It cannot be done by government alone. The only way we're going to be able to really make progress is if we all work together towards a common purpose. Thanks, Amanda. Back to you.
All work together towards a common purpose. Beautiful segue. And of course, that emphasis on partnerships is a wonderful segue to our next section. I want to thank all of our UN lead agency partners so much for your individual leadership, the collective work that your agencies are doing, and for really embodying the power of partnerships. So please smile, cameras on, and there are some photographs being taken as we transition to our next section. Thank you all so much. I'm delighted now to introduce another former World Bank colleague, whom you all know as Meral Guzel, who is the partnerships manager for this incredible initiative, the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator. So when we were together at the World Bank, we worked on the World Bank President's Global Private Sector CEO Leaders Initiative. And it's wonderful to see the continuing work in this domain that Meral is doing. Meral, give us an update on your work with the Accelerator.
Thank you very much, Amanda. And but I will also take this opportunity to introduce you, which I couldn't do it before. Maybe it's late, but ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to introduce Ambassador Amanda Ellis, a former colleague, and honestly, my reason to continue on gender and on this work. I got my first position at the World Bank, Access to Finance for Women Entrepreneurs in Africa, where Amanda was leading the World Bank work. And she leads the global partnerships for the exciting new Arizona State University Julie Ann Wrigley Global Futures Laboratory. She's the former New Zealand ambassador to the United Nations in Geneva and first woman to lead the New Zealand Development Agency. Amanda is co-founder of Financial Alliance for Women and co-chair of the We Empower Women Entrepreneurs UN SDG Challenge, launched by the UN Secretary General at UNGA in 2018. So I'm delighted now to, and my honor, to share about our collective work. Today, we are thrilled to report progress and demonstrate the unique impact 5 United Nations agencies and the private sector can have when working together. Each of our programs and knowledge products are shaped with a gender lens and represent a concrete step towards the systemic transformation women need. They are the joint outcome of the collaboration between the International Labour Organization, the International Trade Center, United Nations Global Compact, UNDP, and UN Women. In 2021, we have focused on 4 critical areas: digital capacity building for women entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship research and policy, global and regional gender-responsive procurement work, and overall advocacy. All our contributions will be released at the last quarter of this year, so stay tuned for our announcement. First, I would like to talk about the digital capacity building tools and training. Access to continuous education and skills training is one of the major challenges faced by all women entrepreneurs globally. We are excited to share that over the past 12 months, ITC SheTrace has created for WEA a guided digital curriculum to be soon accessible to all women around the world. The aim is to teach women entrepreneurs the skills to design and set up businesses that have potential to be economically viable. The curriculum includes 27 interactive modules in 4 languages, covers 7 key stages of business development, and is enriched with over 200 videos. All the modules are free for all users with no barrier to entry. Second, in 2021, in-country training sessions will take place virtually in Brazil, Colombia, India, and Mexico to complement the online training. So you may ask, when is it available? The curriculum will be gradually released between October and December 2021 in English, Spanish, and French, with Arabic, Russian, and Mandarin coming in 2022. So where those modules will be located, and they will be accessible on the WEA website and directly on the ITC SheTrace website and mobile application. So knowledge is power, and I want to thank Pamela's team for all their work on this life-changing tool. Let's continue our journey and explore our second focus area, which is entrepreneurship research and policy. We know that the challenges of women entrepreneurship exist in every country at many levels. So the Accelerator joined forces with ILO team to identify, analyze, and monitor the state of women entrepreneurship in country and take stock of the multidimensional impacts of COVID-19. With this research and customized recommendations, we will inform policymakers and move the needle for women entrepreneurs. ILO has been focusing on strengthening advocacy for women's entrepreneurship development in Mexico and Brazil, 2 countries where women entrepreneurship is vibrant and 2 countries severely hit by the pandemic. We want to thank you to ILO Global Team, and especially the regional team of Vinicius, who have pivoted and adjusted remarkably to the environment created by COVID and continued the work despite all the challenges. In 2020, at the very beginning of our collaboration, the partners have identified gender-responsive procurement, as mentioned also by Anita, as an area with transformational potential for women entrepreneurs. UN Women, in collaboration with United Nations Global Compact, are establishing the business case for gender-responsive procurement. We launched a committee of practice in July to engage stakeholders from the private sector. Together, they are also conducting, 2 agencies are conducting a global survey across the sectors. In addition, more than 50 companies and organizations are interviewed by UN Women team. This work will result in a series of case studies and an evidence-based advocacy tool to highlight the business case of GRP, gender-responsive procurement, to be launched by December. Additionally, again in December, UN Women Europe and Central Asia teams will launch an inaugural pilot program to increase the capacities of both women entrepreneurs and private sector. This innovative program is called Gender Responsive Procurement and Investment, and is developing two parallel initiatives. On one side, it's a capacity building for the private sector entities from all the sectors to establish policies and practices and design initiatives on gender responsive procurement. And here is the innovation, and invest into the business of the woman they are buying from. And second, building procurement capacities of women entrepreneurs to compete for bidding opportunities with public and private sector. This combined approach provides a great example of how we can innovate through training. We want to thank our partners, UN Women and Global Compact colleagues, for their joint commitment to contribute to Accelerator's gender responsive procurement line of work. And with any of those, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. So Amanda, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Meral. It's very exciting to see how much is being built and how much is on offer. Now we move to welcoming new partners. And I'm thrilled today to announce that the International Telecommunication Union and the Commonwealth Businesswomen Network and the We Empower UN SDG Challenge will all formally be joining the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Doreen Bogdan-Martin, the first woman in ITU history to hold one of the organization's top elected management positions. She was elected director of the ITU Telecommunication Development Bureau in 2018. Doreen was an architect of the annual Global Symposium for Regulators, which is the preeminent global event for digital policymakers. And we know how important that is with the digital divide. Doreen also leads the ITU's contribution to the Equals Global Partnership for Gender Equality in the Digital Age. Doreen, welcome. Wonderful to have you with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, Amanda. And good evening from Geneva. It's great to have the opportunity to share some thoughts on how we can collaborate to accelerate women's entrepreneurship, particularly with the tacit but very powerful role of digital. And I think if it wasn't clear before, COVID has certainly shown us just how critical access to digital services is for continued business activities. And of course, as previous speakers have noted, women, of course, have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. 82% of women-led businesses have been and still are negatively impacted, and many have had to adapt by moving their businesses online. And of course, the transition online is not always so easy or even possible for many women. Our data shows us that only 48% of women are actually using the internet compared to 55% men. And of course, if you look at least developed countries, that picture is much, much worse, where it's only 1 in 7 women using the internet compared to 1 in 4 men. And of course, as Anita mentioned, you can't compete without access to digital technologies. And I think simply put, far too many women still lack access to affordable, meaningful connectivity with which they could drive impactful transformation in their local communities and, of course, in their national economies. Of course, while urging us to forge new paths and do more together at the opening of the UN General Assembly, the general debate, we had the president of the General Assembly say that there are moments in time that are turning points. And I think this is one such moment. I do think it is time to change course. And of course, you asked us for examples, and that we're so excited to be joining forces with you, examples of what success would look like. I think it would look like a society in which women entrepreneurs can take their equal place as architects of the global economy. And of course, that includes the digital economy. And I think it would begin with multi-stakeholder partnerships. We've heard about some great partnerships today, because that's necessary to tackle the multifaceted gender digital divide. And so you mentioned equals. I think that's a great example. It's a global partnership to bridge the gender digital divide. It was co-founded by the ITU together with UN Women, with ITC, UN University, and GSMA. Today, we are 100 partners strong, not quite the 13,000 that Global Compact has, but we would invite all the Global Compact members to come and join us. And we do use our combined reach to deliver critical digital skills and leadership training to women and girls around the globe. And as a complement to Equals, we have also successfully collaborated with the Enhanced Integrated Framework in Ethiopia, in Burundi, in Haiti, to equip women entrepreneurs working in cocoa farms, in the textile industry, with the digital skills and innovation that they need to be able to take their products and services to market. So these are the kinds of efforts I think that we need to scale to make the leap, the digital leap. And it's really in that spirit, recognizing the enabling power of collaborative partnerships, that we have launched the Partner to Connect Digital Coalition, which is a multi-stakeholder alliance to foster meaningful connectivity and digital transformation in the hardest to connect communities. The coalition resonates with the UN Secretary General's call to work together as a global family in his recently launched common agenda that was referred to before. And we look forward to joining hands with the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator and of course with Mary Kay. And we'll be focusing on providing high quality digital skills training. That training covers things like cybersecurity, really important, also digital marketing, and we'll also have other kinds of specialized courses. And through this partnership, we aim to launch a specific innovation challenge for women entrepreneurs, and that will help us to be able to document good practices, and it's going to be launched at our Global Forum on Digital Innovation. And we're really truly looking forward to collaborating with you to further unlock women entrepreneurs' contributions to the digital economy, because I think in doing so, the whole world stands to gain. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pamela. And I love that collaborate to accelerate. And your reference back to Sandra's point about the UN Secretary General's Our Common Agenda. Is this a breakdown or a breakthrough? And just so uplifting to hear of the wonderful work that you're doing. Really gives us encouragement that this can be a breakthrough positive moment. Meral, just wanted to let you know you still have your screen up. So if you could take that down so that we can allow, that's fantastic, and actually see Doreen, fabulous. And Arif, if you could please come on as well. I think Meral wanted to get a photograph of you. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. And now, Arif, over to you. I'm so excited to introduce another male champion. So having Vinicius and now having Arif Zaman, who is the Executive Director of the Commonwealth Business Women's Network and based in the UK, also a senior lecturer at the Bloomsbury Institute in London. Now, the Commonwealth Business Women's Network I have been involved in for many, many years. It is directly connected to the organizations of 54 governments across 6 continents who are all members of the Commonwealth and committed to establishing Sustainable Development Goal 5 to empower women and girls, as well as the Global Charter. So Arif has 10 years experience with British Airways and also in leadership roles in the Commonwealth and accredited organizations. He is an expert on working with both the private sector and women in business, and author of a best-selling book on reputational risk. He previously led the Commonwealth's work on corporate governance, and so is very familiar with the importance of the diversity dividend. We've just been hearing about the digital divide, and now I'm thrilled to introduce Arif, who is an expert in the diversity dividend. Arif, please share with us what the Commonwealth Business Women's Network is doing and how it's going to collaborate with the Accelerator.
Well, thank you, Amanda. And it is really an exciting day. The Commonwealth has a very long established relationship with the UN. I mean, the modern Commonwealth started around the same time as the UN, but we have a real opportunity here for partnership for one key reason, because we don't have enough time. You know, I'm a guy, I've got a 13-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old daughter, and any parent that's got young children will be worried tonight because we don't want them to grow up into the world that we're living today with the same challenges that women are experiencing. So we have a ticking clock, really, and we have to remember that really at the forefront. But the Commonwealth Business Women's Network a few months ago held a major event, the first ever Commonwealth Women's Entrepreneurship Summit. We came together with the UK government. We also came together with the biggest global entrepreneurship community, Global Entrepreneurship Network, and it was all about women in emerging tech. We know the language about it, don't we? Health tech, fashion tech, fintech, etc. But where are the women? And this is exactly the question the G20 asked just a few months prior to that. So we organized this major event. It was incredibly empowering in the sense of showing the potential, but also some of the challenges. And out of that has emerged, which today we're very pleased to announce, the Commonwealth Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator. It would make no sense not to work with the UN. In fact, it would make every sense to work with the UN. Not to, and again, for a key reason, because we can just have a greater impact in more countries more quickly and ensure we're having more diverse women coming into this space. So that is really what happened. The organizations that have come together, key organizations, apart from ourselves, the Commonwealth Business Women's Network, we have access, of course, to all the Commonwealth partners that we work with, the accredited organizations and governments that we work with, and the Commonwealth Secretariat. We also have the Global Entrepreneurship Network, 191 countries, 10 million people, you know, that celebrate entrepreneurship every November during Global Entrepreneurship Week, massive community. And we also have Accenture, the innovation arm of Oxford University, as they were set up by, and we all know about the innovation out of Oxford right now with Oxford AstraZeneca. So there is a really powerful combination of partners there. We've come together to work with the UN Women Entrepreneurship Accelerator. And it's really about the word that I think Pamela mentioned. Yes word, it's scaling. And we have to start, and I mean, that's exactly, I think, what, you know, UN is doing. It's really bringing, you know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this area. It's also around scaling. And the Commonwealth has a real opportunity around this for three simple reasons. We have a Commonwealth economic advantage where we know we can have 20% more trade with 21% reduced cost. We also know that there is a plug and play there. We have all these powerful networks of private sector, parliamentarians, and policy makers and others, lawyers, etc. So we want to plug into all of those things, local government and others, universities. And so that provides us with a really powerful opportunity. But we also have access to some of the fastest growing markets in the world. And it's true that they're fast growing in the Commonwealth, some of them certainly around in Africa and Asia, but we have to ensure women are part of that. And that's why we're really excited today that the Commonwealth Business Women's Network has brought together Accenture and the Global Entrepreneurship Network to work with the UN so we can have a greater impact more quickly. And I just want to say, if I can, Amanda, I started saying something about being a man. I think I'm the only man on the panel from the private sector and civil society. But, you know, I want to say this to every man that's not listening, not for every man that is listening, but every man that isn't listening, because you need to smell the coffee and taste the coffee, because that's the way, you know, if we don't do things more quickly, yes, we need more jobs. I mean, Anita's right, we need more jobs, but my goodness, we don't need just more jobs, we need better jobs. And we don't need women just to be in the spaces where they're already, you know, represented to some extent. We want them in areas where they're too absent. Now, I worked in transportation and finance. I can't remember many women leaders when I was there. And we need to also see jobs where women are leaders and men can be the followers. That's the kind of world.
Thank you so much, Arifa.
So I just wanted to put that on the table.
Love that. Just love that. We need jobs where women can be the leaders and men can be the followers too. And you totally embody the gender equality principle. We're so grateful to have you. I have been a very undisciplined moderator with all you fabulous, exciting, inspiring speakers. So we will come back for a lightning round if we have time. But I wanted now to move to Dr. Aldijana Šešić, and I hope I'm getting that right, from Bosnia and Herzegovina, who is on her second day as the new Chief of Multi-Stakeholder Partnerships and Advisory Services for UN Women. previously served as chief of the UN Trust Fund to end violence against women for 8 years, lots of experience in human rights with International Secretariat of Amnesty International in London and in my home country of New Zealand. Aldiana, the floor is yours to please close us out, and then I will come back for a very final closing round.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And yes, indeed, I was born and bred in Bosnia. I'm a British who lived in New Zealand, and now duty station is New York in USA. So international, truly life. And I love that New Zealand accent, Amanda. I really miss it, I must say. So the panelists, ladies, gentlemen, partners, colleagues, and everybody who joined us today, it is such a pleasure for me to share with you these final few notes as we come to the end of the event and as we try to build forward better. And I would add to Anita's words, together. So building forward together and better. I wanted to thank every one of our partners and participants who joined us today. And I also, Amanda, want to thank you for your really excellent moderation of the whole event and energy that comes with it. Your expertise on women's entrepreneurship and your experience have been critical to link everything together in the smooth flow of the event. I wanted to welcome the new partners who are joining the VIA, the International Telecommunication Union and Commonwealth Business Women's Network. You know, I can hear and see your contributions are going to be absolutely invaluable. And Amanda said, I'm only second day in my job as in this role as a chief of the multi-stakeholder partnerships and advisory services in UN Women. So for me, this was a personally extraordinary, inspiring event. And I've heard a lot of concepts that we in the area of violence against women as well are working with, such as a capacity, the burden, the care work, tools, helping to scale up, helping to change. And I think that these discussions today, I hope, have inspired everybody in terms of how do we progress together to deliver on all of these important things for the women entrepreneurs and all of those who are supporting them and working with them. I think it is important to know that this today is not a single celebration of VI initiative only, but it's just a starting point for the work that must be done together to mitigate those challenges that we've heard today and everybody has spoke about. VIA is an example of how public and private partnership can actually work together for meaningful progress of the sustainable goals, and not just goal 5 or 17, but all of them, because everything is so interconnected. But our problem across all of the goals, our joint problem, is the implementation, because it doesn't go so far as we would want it, often doesn't go so far. So I think my takeaway from today, from everything I've heard, is that our efforts really must be focused, all of our joint efforts must be focused on ensuring that women are at the center of the means of implementation. Because everything I've heard today speaks about mobilizing their knowledge, expertise, and then mobilizing some of the tools like technology and financial resources towards the goal that they will achieve and that we will achieve together. So I think this is really crucial for me to take away. And I think from this point of view, the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator exemplifies one of the models that transformational potential of multi-stakeholder partnership can be delivered, how it can be delivered, how it can harness not just the potential of women's entrepreneurs, but how we as a partner can harness our own potential to support women entrepreneurs. Because, you know, I think it was, I'm not sure, I think it was Vinicius who says, or maybe Arif who says, this is not about us being in a better position to support women's entrepreneurs. It is about realizing that we are in it together, and you know, through the joint work doing that. I think the VIA offers the platform for knowledge exchange here and sharing expertise between all of us together. And I think also through our United Nations and local implementing partners, VIA supports women entrepreneurs through research, advocacy, and building capacities. That's where we see, if you want, our niche. And it also offers those innovative collaborations in this unique ecosystem that allows us to scale up transformational initiatives and establish new ones.
Fantastic.
I think I'm going to finish here and just say thank you so much, everybody, for really amazing exchanges. And again, Amanda, thank you so much for fantastic moderation. Over to you.
Aldiano, just wonderful. What beautiful note on which to finish. Wonderful synthesis. Women at the center to build forward better and differently. And let's take the Secretary General's challenge. This is not a breaking point, but a breakthrough moment. And my last word is from the audience. Women's entrepreneurship as a force for good, transformational impact. Be bold, let's get together and be the change we need. Join forces for positive change through the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator. Thank you all so much for a brilliant event, and thank you to our wonderfully interactive chat. Room.